now going to look at calculating what is called compound interest. Previously, we talked about calculating simple interest with the formula I is equal to P times R times T. When we're calculating compound interest, we're going to use a different formula. Our formula for compound interest looks like this. So what we're going to do is we are going to go through each of these symbols and make sure that we understand what the symbols stand for. The P, the R, and the T are the same as they were in the simple interest formula. So the P is still your principal. That is your original amount that you put into an account. The R is your interest rate, and it needs to be written as a decimal. The T is your time in terms of years. The N, which is new in this formula, is in this formula in two places. The N is the number of times that the interest compounds each year. So if you look at the chart underneath, you'll see that if the problem asks you, for example, to calculate interest that is compounded monthly, you are going to enter in for an N value 12. And the reason why we do this is that there are 12 months in a year. Likewise, if the problem asks you to calculate interest that compounds daily, we're going to use 360 for the N value. Remember that previously we talked about how that is the typical banking number of days in a year, 360. So that just gives you some examples. You also can have annually, semi-annually, quarterly, and weekly, and you have the N values that go with each of those. The only other thing in our formula is the A, and the A is your future value or your final amount. So what we want to do is look at a couple of examples and just be sure that we are able to work a compounded interest problem. So our first example says that Althea invests $13,000 at 7% annual interest, compounded quarterly. How much will Althea's investment be worth after 20 years? So let's go ahead and label the numbers in the problem. She invests initially $13,000, so that's going to be my principal. It tells me that the interest rate is 7%, so we need to write that as a decimal. Remember that to change a number to a decimal, you're going to move the decimal 2 places to the left. So 7% will be 0.07 for the interest rate. We're told that the interest compounds quarterly. So if you look at your chart, if it compounds quarterly, the N value is going to be 4. And then finally, it says the investment is going to stay in the account for 20 years. So our time is going to be 20. Now, once we've labeled all of those points, all of those values, we're going to go ahead and plug into our formula. All right, so our formula is going to look like, we're going to have A, that's what we're calculating, that final amount. And then we're going to plug in for our P first, so that's going to be the 13,000. We're going to open up this parenthesis. We'll put 1 plus, we'll plug in our R value on the top of the fraction, so R is 0.07. On the bottom of the fraction, we're going to put our N value, which is 4. And then we're going to do our exponent. Now, our exponent is found by taking the N value and multiplying by the T. So I'm going to go ahead and do that part either separately using my calculator or in my head, whichever one you want to do. N times T is going to be 4 times 20. So I'm going to go ahead and just put in 80 because 4 times 20 is 80 in for my exponent. Fix that so it looks a little bit more like a 3, and then we're ready to go. Now we're going to put this in our calculator, and what I want to do is just show you how it goes in the calculator. You're going to be best off if you can enter it in the calculator all at once, and so you can see there on my calculator screen how I did that. All right, and you can also see the correct answer is $52,083 and 0.095 cents. Okay. All right, and again, as always, if you have trouble with your calculator, let me know and we can talk about how you put it in. All right, let's try one more example. We have an example that says Chester invests $500 at 3.1% annual interest, compounded monthly. How much will Chester's investment be worth after 5 years? So the initial investment that he makes, that's the principal, that is, we're told, is $500. The interest rate is 3.1%. So we move that decimal 2 places to the left, and we're going to be looking at 0.031. We're told the interest compounds monthly. I know that there are 12 months in a year, so the end value is going to be 12. And the investment is going to stay in the bank for 5 years. So I'm going to put a 5 in for the T. Once we identify all of those variables, we're then ready to plug into our formula. So I am going to go ahead and plug my P in, which is the 500. I'm going to open up that parenthesis, do 1 plus the R value, so 0.031. And we're going to divide by our N, so we'll divide by 12. And then I'm going to deal with that exponent. I'm going to do the same thing with the exponent. I'm going to go ahead and take these two, the N times the T, and multiply that together. So 12 times 5 is going to be 60. That just allows me to put it in the calculator just a little bit easier if I already have that multiplied together. All right, and again, I'm going to show you how it looks going into the calculator. And our answer will be 583.71.